Us. Just waiting for everyone to join. Welcome to those who have joined. Delight to have everyone joining us today. For those of you who are joining and who are not speaking, I might ask you to turn your cameras off if that's okay. We're delighted to have you. And my colleague Maria is in the background doing all the technical support. So Maria, you let us know when we're ready to get kicked off.
Absolutely. There are still people joining, so I will give it a couple of more minutes.
Thank you. Yeah, we had a healthy response to this very special edition of the Women in Payments POM Café, a special International Women's Day event. And we are delighted to have a fantastic turnout and a very, very special group of women for our panel discussion today. I'll give everybody another minute or so to dial in and get settled from all the different time zones around the world. Seeing some familiar faces, some new faces. Welcome, everybody. For those of you who are just joining us, we would be delighted if you're able to turn your cameras off, then we can focus on the panelists. And then for the end of the discussion, we're happy to have everybody join us. All right. How are we doing, Maria?
We're doing good. I'm still getting some people joining. Usually for our regular Palm cafes, I like to give about 4 minutes or so for people to dial in. So I would say one more minute and then we can kick it.
Thanks, Maria. I think I saw a note someone's getting an echo. I don't know if other people are getting echoes. Hopefully not.
I am not hearing an echo, but in order to avoid that, I think it would be best if you can have yourself muted if you're not.
The panelists, yes. Off camera, off. Thank you, Kelly P. No echo for Kelly P. Awesome. All right. Excellent. Well, welcome everyone. We are delighted to have everybody. I'm going to get kicked off now. So delighted to welcome everybody for this very special edition of the POM Cafe Women in Payments weekly event now. And we have a very, very special panel for you today. My name is Christy Duncan. For those of you who don't know me, founder and CEO of Women in Payments, a growing global community of women around the world of payments. And we're delighted to welcome you here today. Despite progress in representation, many women continue to encounter the invisible ceilings that quietly shape their leadership journeys. These barriers aren't always openly discussed, and they're subtle, systemic, and often internalized. They show up in expectations to overperform, to remain agreeable, to endlessly adjust, or to wait for validation before stepping into leadership. Today's session brings together the four coaches of the Leadership Collective, each offering a unique lens on confidence, influence, systemic bias, executive presence, and sustainable leadership. And this all dovetails with this year's theme for International Women's Day, which is Give to Gain. And that can be interpreted so many ways, giving voice to women, giving women opportunities for mentorship and leadership, and gaining opportunities for women to rise and succeed across this industry and beyond. Today's session will be recorded and will be available for our members to refer to after today's session. And I ask anybody in the audience to please, we welcome all of your questions. I suggest you enter them via the chat, and note that if you could please specify who your question is directed to and who you are and where you're from, where in the world, and what part of the industry, what company you're with. So let's get kicked off. I'm going to introduce our esteemed panel members today, starting with Fotini Economopoulos, who is a negotiation and leadership expert and the best-selling author of Say Less, Get More. Fotini helps ambitious professionals advocate for themselves while strengthening relationships. Having worked with Fortune 500 companies and global academic institutions, Fotini equips women leaders to negotiate with clarity, confidence, and purpose for sustainable, positive outcomes. Patricia Gestoso is a technologist and corporate advisor with over 25 years of experience in digital transformation, AI, and scientific computing. As founder of Gestoso Consulting and director at Dassault Systèmes, she guides leaders on ethical AI and responsible innovation. She's a published author and is now writing a book informed by insights from over 500 women in tech worldwide. Alison Shamir is a globally recognized imposter syndrome expert, keynote speaker, author, and former technology leader. With 16 years in high-pressure tech roles, she draws on research and storytelling to help high performers build sustainable confidence and psychological safety. Alison empowers individuals and organizations to overcome self-doubt and reach their full potential. And last but certainly not least, Penny DeValk is a leadership coach and educator with extensive executive experience, including multiple CEO roles across 3 continents. Originally from New Zealand and now based in London, she works across North America and Europe. Penny specializes in supporting women leaders, helping them navigate complexity, elevate performance, and lead with confidence. Welcome to our esteemed panel. So let's kick off today's discussion with the first question, which is starting with the barriers that women still face today, especially the ones that we don't speak about openly. Can you talk about invisible ceilings that you see showing up in the workplace right now, and whether they're internal, cultural, or perhaps systemic? Who wants to kick us off here? Patricia?
Yeah, thank you, Christy. So, as you mentioned, I'm writing a book now about how women succeed in tech based on surveying around 500 women in tech around the world. And I've been mentoring, coaching, and sponsoring women for more than 20 years. And the barriers, women are reporting today are systemic, but that doesn't mean that all of them, are equally. I would like to divide those barriers like in 2 buckets, one more internal, and other bucket that is the workplace. So from the women, what I see is that women actually giving up with burnout, because we've been told that the problem was that we didn't network. Now we network. We were told that because we didn't travel, we traveled. Now we are checking more and more boxes, still performing at 150%. And women are saying, I don't see still progress. So this is me. The other one that I see is that now the uncertainty is the new normal. And we need people, to take risks. And women, we have been, a lot of us, we have brought up to be risk adverse. Okay, we need to be perfect all the time. And we want to play by the rules and have the 7 PhDs and 300, certificates before taking a decision. So we are sometimes offered positions and we keep thinking, oh, do I have everything, 100% of what I need? And that stops us, whereas somebody, men will say, I'm going to give it a go. If it doesn't work, I have my previous job. And then the other one is I see women idealizing leadership, saying, for example, that they have this idea of a very well-rounded leader, which is not bad, but if they don't feel that they tick again all boxes, they won't accept the position. And we are basically confusing charisma with competence many times.
Fair
As
enough.
for the as for the workplace, we have that. When I started my career, I thought bias will decrease as I move up, and now what we know is no. It's sometimes even the opposite. You continue to, you can be an executive level and still be mansplained,
Yeah,
um,
indeed.
and or not taken seriously. Then
All
we
good points, Patricia. Thank you so much. Can I pass over to Allison? Do you want to weigh in on this? Where are these invisible barriers and how do women see them in the workplace?
Thank you, Christy, and good morning from Sydney, everyone. Two quick points that I want to make, and I think the first one dovetails off Patricia perfectly, is I want to share something called the evidence gap. Now, what is the evidence gap as a perceived barrier or ceiling? It's when women, and I'll talk to women, of course, on this at the moment, are highly competent. As Patricia said, we have the qualifications, the certifications, the work experience, the tenure. We're in the rooms right now. But what we're not doing is internalizing the evidence of that success and competence. And that creates a gap in the perception, our perception of ourselves, but the evidence that we have on the record to prove that we do belong in the room, do deserve the role, are worthy of what we're doing. So in that gap, things like imposter syndrome can thrive, but so can other fears and doubts. And so they can hold us back from an internal perspective, but systemic structures play a role as well. So the evidence gap is just something I wanted to highlight. And a second quick one is this notion of fear of visibility. So believe it or not, many of us globally, cross culture, cross geography, can have a fear of visibility. Now, why would we have that fear? Sometimes it is driven by imposter syndrome, but it is driven by other contexts in the workplace as well. So I see a lot of high performing women, like all of you watching this call today, who are scared to show up, utilize their voice, celebrate their wins, again, take ownership of the credentials out of fear of being labeled too confident. I think we've all heard that, or arrogant. Or the big one I see for women globally, especially cross cultural, is this notion that then we're not humble, right? This focus on humility, that we can't celebrate our wins, we can't step into leadership, we can't take the stage, whatever, we might be striving for, because we won't be humble enough. Now, humility is a beautiful thing. We all look at it in
Muchas
different ways.
gracias.
And so it's important that we also address this invisible barrier of holding ourselves back from visibility that we have earned. And the third quick point, Christy, I'll do this very quickly and hand back to you. And something that I know we may explore further on this talk is this notion of
Gracias,
identity
Denis.
and identity evolution. So just quickly, every human being of all genders is evolving, but women in particular go through what I would class as more evolutions. This can be age, tenure in business, things like perimenopause, menopause. We might become a parent or a caregiver. We may exit the workforce and return. They're just some quick examples. Each time we do this, our identity evolves, and we need to ensure we are bracing the latest version of ourselves and presenting and performing at our best. There's more I can say on that, but I'll leave it because I know we've got a fantastic discussion. So to recap, the evidence gap, this fear of visibility, and identity evolution, just some things I wanted to put to the audience to think about.
Yeah, all great points. Thank you so much for sharing, Allison. Before we move on, Penny, did you want to weigh in on this quickly?
Oh, I think, Patricia and Alison have made great points around the challenge around, I think about some of the think leader, think male, and that we can even internalize that ourselves because we've been well socialized to be, good girls, nice girls, humble, not show-offs, whereas boys aren't getting that message. So there's a lot of internal and external tension around how we step into our leadership. And as you say, Patricia, it doesn't get easier as you get more senior, because as we get more senior, we need to exercise even more agency and we will get more pushback. So I think that challenge around our own socialization, what's happening in here, but also what's going on out there. What is the landscape we are navigating at this time of our social evolution when, what leadership looks like is up for grabs?
All really great points. And clearly, the invisible ceiling or these invisible barriers continue to work against us in many cases as we try to climb the corporate ladder and reach our full career potential. I want to talk a little bit about this leadership tightrope, being strong but not too strong, warm but not too warm, visible but not too visible, as Allison mentioned. How do these expectations shape women's leadership experiences? And I know, Penny, you talk a lot about this. Do you want to kick us off here?
Sure. Well, I think we'll all experience it, any woman in leadership, this what has become known as this competence versus likability tension that our male colleagues do not experience in leadership. So we're often being told we're too much or not enough. And maybe you've all experienced this. You know that, oh, was I too assertive in that meeting? Sharp elbows. Have you ever heard a man described as having sharp elbows? Oh, maybe I was too collaborative on that decision. Well, maybe they don't think I'm really leadership material. So I think it's worth reminding ourselves that at the heart of this tension, women leaders experiences one persistent social script, which is men take charge and women take care. And you'd think this, how can we be still stuck in this outdated stereotype? But leadership is still, research shows us in our minds, is still seen as masculine, decisive, confident, authoritative, think leader, think male. And women who step into leadership violate gender expectations, and we can trigger resistance. And for decades, it's been documented that identical leadership behaviors are experienced differently depending on your gender. So it's this kind of agency, communion, socialization, outdated stereotype. So men are agentic and women are communal, supposed to be. So when women exercise their agency, that we need to do, as leaders, we get pushback. So as you said, Christy, it can feel like a tightrope. This, am I too much? Am I not enough? There's leader-like versus lady-like tension. And as you said as well, and we've also been socialized as little girls to be polite and agreeable, to put others first. So we even have our own internal instincts along with this leader-like, lady-like tension at play. And it can really lead to women being confused. We get inconsistent feedback, like you need to make more impact at meetings, through to you need to learn to tone it down. It can be confusing. So this, and also this constant calibration about how we are landing, can be really exhausting, frustrating, and destabilizing. We can lose our confidence, try to shrink. I think the most heartbreaking response to this social fact is if women internalize it as a personal failure. I hear that, oh, well, it must be me. I'm doing it all wrong. I guess I'm just not cut out for this leadership gig. And it's not you. It's a system bias we need to manage at this stage, as I said before, of our social evolution, as we kind of navigate the bridge between what was the role of women in our grandmothers' times and what we want the role of women to be today, which includes being leaders.
Indeed. And we are today setting the stage for tomorrow. So we, as the leaders of today, want to be reshaping those biases for tomorrow. Fatini, I know you've got lots to say on this topic. Do you want to share your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, the reason my book even came up in the first place was because HarperCollins approached me a number of years ago and said, "We think you have a book in you." And I was like, "Thanks, but why another book on negotiation?" And they said, "We think you have a voice that people need to hear," because the editors themselves, a man and a woman, both recognize that what works for a specific dominant group doesn't necessarily work for everybody. And women have been experiencing that intuitively, knowing that for a long time. The way, Penny described it, the same words coming out of our mouths are labeled quite differently. And so my mission has been to change the way we shape that kind of stuff, give women and broader populations the tools in order to be still okay in that position of leadership without getting penalized for it. It's basically, leadership without the backlash. And for too long, we've been given only one type of role model and then being told through the systemic issues that, by the way, that what you're seeing in that role modeling, that actually doesn't work for you. So what do we do instead? We end up doing things like we use hedging language because we want to be likable enough. We don't want to be labeled as aggressive, even though we still need to be assertive and get our work done. So we use language like I think and things like that. And if you've been in my audiences at any of the women in payments conferences that we've done around the world, you've heard me swap out things like I think with based on. Based on is that kind of language that isn't going to create doubt and invite that weak kind of a persona with you, but it's also not going to get you the backlash either. It makes you sound credible. We need more and more of those examples because we've been doing so much of this hedging language. And the other mistake that I see women often making is they go, okay, well, if I need to be likable, so I'll just give them what they want this time in order to make sure I can save the relationships. Everything's about saving the relationship because we're walking this crazy tightrope. So then we have role modeling of giving in for everything. In fact, I had a visceral reaction to the theme for International Women's Day, this whole give to gain, because I suspect a lot of women who are listening right now are going, I'm giving all the freaking time. Why am I not getting anything back? Like, how am I not getting burnout from all the giving that I'm doing? So we need to be more strategic about how we give, and it's about putting your mask on first in the airplane example, but also making sure that you're not giving in a way where you're going to be taken advantage of. So we believe that we're saving the relationship because we're not pushing back on that one thing, or I'm not asking for too much in this one. But what we've actually learned when it comes to likability is it's not the whole ladylike behavior stuff that Penny brought up. It is the fact that likability comes from three things. It comes from having something in common. And for the leadership community, oftentimes that is a gender thing, but it could be something else. We can turn it into something else. It could be, we both love the same coffee, or we both love the same travel destinations, or whatever. That's enough to bond us rather than trying to bond us by giving you my time, energy, and resources that are already running out. We like people who complement us. So it could be, thanks for doing that so efficiently. I really appreciate your efforts on that project. And we like people who are cooperative. So we actually don't like some of those old school role models that we've been fed for far too long. It's just that we've been dealing with them. You can actually find ways to attract people to you in the way that you show up as assertive without diminishing yourself with that hedging language and with that generosity that could engender greed. So the give to gain theme for me is about being more strategic about how and when you give to preserve your energy and making sure that you are indeed gaining something too, as well as everybody else.
Excellent points. Thank you so much. Allison, quick note before we move on to the next question.
Yeah, I think the ladies have highlighted it beautifully. Some of the takeaways I got then are the importance of language, of course, to ourselves, about ourselves, and communicating with others. The mixed messaging and the outdated leadership models, as Penny said, and it is this notion quickly of square peg, round hole. And that's how it can feel for some of us, where we do have these leadership models. Maybe they're working, maybe they're not, but they're not the leader that we want to be. And our ability to carve that path can feel like a tightrope, and often is a tightrope. So it's about grounding ourselves in our sense of self, and I guess presenting and performing as best we can as a foundation, I think is very important. And the other quick thing I wanted to mention for both the ladies is this notion of when we're doing all of these things, when we're thinking too much about what we're saying, when we're questioning ourselves, when we're sitting back and dealing with mixed messaging, what happens is it's draining our energy. And we're putting a lot of energy and a lot of time, and it's wearing us out. And I know Patricia mentioned burnout, and I think the ladies just touched on it then. So we need to use our skills to dissipate those things, because whether we consciously are aware of it or not, it's sucking our energy. The tightrope is challenging enough, but the tightrope, keeping that analogy, is also draining energy. And as we sit there, others with more energy or who are not doing that may advance past us, not because they're more competent or necessarily confident or better, but because they are thinking and doing differently. So I think some key points, highlighted, but something I want to share is quickly the energy piece around all of that. It can be exhausting, and we need to be aware of that and do our best. It's not our fault, to be very clear, all of that, but do our best of what's within our control is helpful.
These are really great points. Thank you so much for Allison for bringing that energy into the conversation because I think that's a great segue into our next topic, which is about visibility and sponsorship and being seen and where do we spend our energy. And really what I want to dig into a little bit more is what causes women to be overlooked or underestimated and what steps can we take to increase that visibility. So not waste our energy on something that's not going to advance us forward, but really spend our energy in more productive places. Fatini, do you want to lead us off here on this?
Yeah, I mean, I won't belabor, what is keeping us from being visible because I think that the core theme is simply it's systemic bias, right? So when people say I'm looking, it should be the person who has the best skills and so on. But if you're only having a viewfinder that looks like this and you're not actually looking for those other people who may or may not look or sound like you, that's a problem. The issue too we have to be aware of is it's not just men who are biased against women. It's also women who are biased against women. So we need to make sure that we are using our sponsors, our champions, and our amplifiers. So what does that mean? It means who are the people in the room that can help do the work for you to get you to put the spotlight on you to open that viewfinder for the other person versus you being the one here trying to do it all by yourself because that's exhausting, right? Back to the energy that Allison was just talking about. So it's really thinking about who are the people who I can ask for help, right? If we're all here to give, who are those people who are in a position to give, who want to help you move forward, and you don't have to feel guilty about it because we have been taught, like Penny mentioned earlier, to live in isolation. We don't want to be a burden because that's not ladylike. So now we need to undo that mentality to go, well, who do we ask for help? Who are in those locker rooms that I'm not in? It's really about prevention more than it is about you shouting louder. It's about going, how do I get more strategic about this? How do I get more people on board? So who are the ones that can champion me? Who are the ones that can put the spotlight back on me if it's taken away? Like, oh, I really liked what Patricia had to say, or I really loved Christy's example. Who are those people that can be your voice in the room? In fact, we also had during our leadership collective in the fall, we had a woman joining us who had to deal with the Middle East in the women in payments community. And she said, how do I have a conversation with someone or negotiate with someone who won't even talk to me because of their religious beliefs? I mean, that's a primary example of systemic bias. And you're not going to change someone's belief, but who are the people who can be your voice in the room without taking the credit? Who are the ones that can say, Fotini had this really great idea. I want to make sure that you heard it from about it because she may not be here to tell you about it herself. Those are the types of things that we need to be thinking about. Who are the strategic people in the room who are in a position to give so that everybody can gain? And when you are that person, to be open to it or maybe proactively offer that to others as well.
Yeah, fabulous points. I love the idea of allyship and giving voice to people who might not otherwise have that. Patricia, would you like to weigh in on this?
Yeah, so following with what Fotini said about having sponsors, what I find is many times we don't see we don't know the difference between a sponsor and mentor. And we know women are over mentor and under sponsor, thinking
Mm.
that, oh, because somebody give us advice, they will necessarily talk about us outside. So we need to be very clear that it's not a matter of having a mentor versus a sponsor. We need mentors, people that give us advice, and we can learn from their experience. But we also need sponsors, people that talk about us in those rooms where we are not invited. And to add as well about what Alison said, we need to be we have to have clarity in our brand, in our value. And what I find is that sometimes when people tell us about what we do or what we want to do, we repeat what other people tell about us. Oh, I'm organized, or I'm very good at setting meetings. And we need to be more purposeful about clarity about what we want to do next. So we drive that conversation about our brand, our strengths. And then again, mention following on what Fotini said, we need to ask for what we want very clearly. A lot of times we come with, I want to brainstorm with you about my career, or I like that project you are working in. No, just, very clear, can you introduce me to this person? I would like to join that meeting that you lead. And, being definitively more effective. And we need to fight about, with our green, about, being very, humble, as we mentioned before. We need to ask for what we need and what we want.
Yeah, perhaps being more assertive. Thank you for that, Patricia. I just want to go back quickly to something that Fatini said. She mentioned sponsors and mentors, and those are really, really powerful allies that we can have. And for those in the audience who might not be familiar with the difference between sponsor and mentor and ally, somebody had a great way to look at this, and I really love it. I'll just repeat it quickly here. And that is if you think of a wall with three doors. And the mentor is the one who helps you choose which door to go through. Oh, I'd really like to pursue this opportunity in this door. So the mentor helps you there. It's the sponsor who can help to open the door for you so that that opportunity is actually available to you. And then once you pass through the door, it's your allies who help you gain and get up to speed and gain credibility on the other side of that door. So I love that analogy. Nice way to think about sponsorship, mentorship, and allyship. Penny, any thoughts here on what practical steps women can take to increase their visibility?
Yeah, I think as both Fontini and Patricia said, the challenge around visibility is absolutely critical to your leadership progression. And certainly in my experience, a lot of women find that really uncomfortable. It's like, oh, it's all tacky and I shouldn't have to do that. My work should speak for itself. If there was one phrase that is probably one of the biggest breaks on women's careers, it's my work should speak for itself.
Agreed.
Because no one's going to come and tap you on the shoulder. You will just end up working harder and harder and harder, potentially at the things that aren't valued in the organization. So it's just about our reputation. Our reputation is our most important career capital. What do you want to be known for? So why would we let that happen by default and not be a bit more deliberate and intentional about it? So I would just encourage people to think, what do I want to be known for? And how am I being intentional and deliberate about showing up in a way that I want my colleagues, my team, and my seniors to experience me?
Love that. Thanks, Penny. You had a great story about your solo offsite that you did with the offsite with one person. Very clever.
My strategy session with myself.
Yes. I love that. I love that. Okay, this has been a fabulous discussion, but sadly, we're starting to run out of time. So I want to do a quick lightning round and invite each of you to weigh in on a question with a 20-second answer. And I will put up my hand after 20 seconds if you're starting to run over, because we do want to leave a little time at the end for audience questions. So if there's one thing that you could offer women to help change that mindset, to help change the behavior or practice, a practice that accelerates their leadership growth, what would that be? Botini, do you want to start here?
Yeah, I would say frame it in a way that makes it sound like it's valuable to them because we feel really greedy. So if you could say, hey, I know that my skills will help the company achieve X, Y, and Z, it makes it really easy for them to see you in that. And I'm going to throw a TED talk that I think is really helpful from that regard in terms of how you talk about yourself in the chat from Susan Colatuono for a number of years ago. And it's the career advice that women don't get enough.
Thank you. Awesome. All right. I'll look for that TED Talk. Thank you. Framing it in ways that the reader, the listener, finds valuable. Patricia, thoughts on one thing, one takeaway?
Yeah, it takes a village. So build your structures of support. You don't need to do this alone.
Excellent. Excellent. Allison,
For
one
me, it would
takeaway.
Pay attention to and control the story you tell yourself. So, imposter syndrome, which is my specialization, but other fears and doubts are often driven by the story that we tell ourselves. Now, negative stories are not our fault, they are a product of environment as well. But those who can manage and push through fear, doubt, or imposter syndrome are able to change the story that they tell themselves and ensure that the self talk is serving them, not sabotaging them. And that's not a woo-woo opinion, it's science. So the story you tell yourself is critical and it really does control more than you may realize. So pay attention to the story, take control of it, ensure it's serving you, not sabotaging you.
I love that. Yes, tell the story based on evidence. And sometimes it needs to be reframed. And we can have others help us to make that reframe. Penny, last words here.
Yeah, I think probably a build on what everyone has said in terms of mindset. And that's a build on Alison's, like, what are we telling ourselves? And one of the things I do know is that a lot of women think that by being more intentional about how they impact and thinking, well, I am going to do that, for attendees, I'm going to use different language in this environment. I'm going to ask in this way. I'm going to tell myself a different story. Think that somehow, because it doesn't come naturally, that they are being inauthentic. So I would like them to abandon that idea. That is not the calibration. If it's uncomfortable, it's just data, it's just learning. Learn to listen to that and don't tell yourself that because something doesn't feel natural. Just get comfortable with that discomfort. It does not mean you're not an authentic person. So the mantra is be yourself on purpose.
Such powerful insights. Thank you to everyone for sharing. These four fabulous women who have such amazing insights and expertise are the leaders of our Women in Payments Leadership Collective leadership program that we run around the world. And that program is aimed to help women gain the confidence, the clarity, the visibility, and build community to help them advance in their careers. The next session of the Leadership Collective is open now for registration. It will be led by Fotini, and I believe we have up until April 10th to sign up for that. So would be delighted to have anybody join us who's with us today. There's so much more that we can dig more deeply into and learn as we have so much opportunity to advance our careers further and faster. So I'd like to now move on to questions from the audience. And I believe my colleague Maria is online. Maria, are there questions that you want to kick us off with? And who are they from and who are they directed to on this panel?
Absolutely. We have one question in the chat right now from Katie. She's not specifying who it's for, but she's asking how much of how you show up does or should include physical appearance? For instance, dress, body language, etc.
Does anybody want to take that? Penny?
I'm happy to kick off
Okay,
quickly before I open the forum. So it plays a key role is the truth. So, and that doesn't mean, specifically how we dress or having to look a certain way the same as everybody, but we know that first impressions do matter. We know that people are forming impressions in less than a second about an individual, and we see with our eyes first. So presenting and how you present yourself, it is a key part. And whether we like it or not, that is what the global research tells us. We also know that the majority of communication signals, I believe it, I don't have the exact figure in my head, but I believe it's approaching 60%, is nonverbal. So people are making an assessment based on how you walk into a room, how you're sitting, how you may be dressed, how you are presenting yourself before you open your mouth or before you speak the words. So it is important, and finding an authentic and appropriate way to dress, that's different for depending on who you are, where you are, cultural elements and that sort of thing. But I don't think we can shy away from the fact that it does play a key role, whether we like it or not. But I'll hand to the rest of the panel.
I agree,
Anybody else?
Alison. I think it is really important. And particularly body language, can be a really powerful tool for women if we're a bit deliberate about it, because we're also have been taught to sit small, to make ourselves small, do all the things that actually diminish our authority when we're in the room, how we use our voice. And it's not about lowering your voice to sound like a man. It is actually being able to use body language as a tool, how high we are. Authority comes with space. We are that primal. How do you take up space? How big is it? And so there are really important things for us to be intentional about when we go into meetings, when we sit at a table, how we talk, the language we use, how we use our hands. It's a really powerful tool for women to really get their body language off pat, and it won't necessarily come naturally.
Something we need to practice, indeed. Maria, are there other questions we want to entertain? We've got just a few more minutes.
Absolutely. I just want to say thank you for those who are putting their questions in the chat. I see, just for the moment, Brenda has her hand raised here on the call. So I will give it to Brenda.
Yeah, thank you very much. Hi, this is Brenda D'Souza with JP Morgan. Lovely to see you all, and thank you so much for this amazing, inspiring chat. One of the things that I often think about is when I came into the industry, and I'm not trying to age anybody here, but just trying to get a sense of how do you all feel in terms of the shifting demographics and how we show up for the alphas and the betas and the Zs that are soon to come our way, right? Are the same themes that you're talking about starting to be relevant to everybody, or are we trying to, how do we show up for the ones that are a little bit more coming up the curve in the workforce?
Great question. Thank you so much for that. Indeed, we are dealing with a multi-generational workforce, and it seems each generation has their own profile and their own needs and wants and ways of working. Does anybody want to talk about how we work with that day to day in our jobs? Penny.
Yeah, I think it's just a most fabulous opportunity, Brenda, for people to really demonstrate inclusive leadership and management. So it means really understanding where people are coming from, what their experience is. It really encourages us to not stereotype. So it's a very important brain exercise for us to, because everyone, whether it's X, alphas, there's already this nice little bundle of stereotypes and boxes we want to put people into. Well, they don't do that. And some of it is very blamey. Oh, it's very they. Well, that seems to be our default. So it's like, well, who is they? And are they really categorizable? And let's go talk to them. Let's go listen. I love the idea of flip mentoring. I think anyone over 35 should have a 25-year-old mentoring them about anything. Doesn't have to think, oh, they'll be better at technology. They've probably got all sorts of things that they could teach you, and vice versa. So I think be intentional about it. I'm sorry, that's my word of the week. But it won't happen naturally because we're tribal. So we'll all just bunch in with the people we know and we like, who we feel comfortable with. So again, make yourself uncomfortable. Go and build a relationship with someone who doesn't look like you, who's not your same age, who probably doesn't have anything similar to you, and go make them a friend.
Fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for that question, Brenda.
Thank you.
We have time for one last question.
We have a question for Alison from I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Delapo. The question is, she spoke about the evidence gap and its contributions to the invisible ceiling. I'm curious about learning more about it. Perhaps, Alison, you can elaborate a little bit more about that for us.
Yes, sure. Thank you for that question. So the evidence gap is essentially a reminder for us to ensure that as we do the great work, as we capture the qualification, as we have the tenure in the organization, as we're attending the great conferences, building our networks, being intentional, negotiating our worth, and all of those wonderful things that you're all doing, that we stop for a moment and we capture that evidence and we say to ourselves, I'm really proud that I've done that, or I have achieved X, and that we surround ourselves with that evidence and that we internalize it. So fears like imposter syndrome, but others, they thrive when we push that evidence away. And when instead we stay on the negative self-talk side and say, oh, well, it's not enough, or I need to do more, or it wasn't good enough, or another course or another webinar. And I think, Patricia covered this beautifully at the beginning. So we need to pause. And this is my recommendation for all of you. Reconnect back with the evidence of your success and start in the present. What have you accomplished this week, in the last month, in the last 6 months, or the trajectory of the last 12 months? Start there with what is current, but surround yourself with the evidence of your success. Now, is that an immediate miracle cure for fear, doubt, or imposter syndrome? No. But does it intercept those negative perceptions of self? Absolutely. And it creates almost like a circuit breaker for you to go, hang on a moment, I have earned my right to be here. I am thinking about this, right? I am being intentional. I do deserve to be here. So that's what I mean about the evidence gap. You all have plenty of evidence because not one of you has fluked your way into your role, or doesn't deserve to be where you are. But many of us do need to remind ourselves of that. So that's a little bit more about the evidence gap. Hopefully that answered your question, but I'm very easy to find across the internet if you'd like more information.
Thank you so much for that great question. Thank you so much for all of the input today. The speakers have been absolutely fabulous. The audience has really shared some very, very insightful questions showing where their concerns are and how we can all help to pay it forward to the next generations of amazing women who are climbing the corporate ladder across the payments industry and around this world. It has been an absolutely fabulous discussion. Thank you so much, Penny, Patricia, Fatini, Allison, and to our audience. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you at future POM cafes and future Women in Payments events around the world of payments. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Christy.
Thank you to Maria for all the background work, making things happen smoothly.
Absolutely. And if I may, if everyone is still on the call, I just wanted to once again share with you our spring cohort of the Leadership Collective program. If you are interested in registering, I'm going to put the QR code here again. Please let me know if you have any questions. You can reach out to me for further information. But we hope you enjoyed today. And I hope to see you all at our next POM Cafes and in our Leadership Collective program.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.